Babe.
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 Babe!
Babe. Babe. Babe.
Babe.
Babe.
Baby.
I remember thinking, God, did I make a mistake? And I think we both talked about it, oh, did we make a mistake? And it wasn't ever like, let's get a divorce and be done with this.
When I was thinking, what have I done? I thought I'd made a mistake, but I never thought of divorcing her. I think I tried to continue our friendship. It's like she wanted me to be a husband, and I was still like, I'm the boyfriend, I'm the buddy, she's my pal.
For sure, like my expectations were not anything that got played out in reality.
There was a time she was up in Seattle on a business trip. I thought it would be funny to pretend like I didn't know that she was on a plane and that she was coming in and that I had forgotten. So she calls me and she's like, well, where are you? I just landed. I'm walking off the plane. I'm like, walking off the plane? What are you talking about? I'm here at the house. I'm here at the apartment. And she's like, what? And so I could tell right away that it wasn't a funny joke.
I was just worn out, and I just expected something different.
I find out that her boss was on that flight as well. Her boss's boyfriend shows up with flowers and meets her at the gate.
She got flowers and I get a joke. That's awesome, that's romantic. We did not fight well. I escalate, I raise my voice a lot, I struggle with anger.
I want to get away, and I want to think about it, and I want to process things and try and figure it out.
That combination is kind of like oil and water. It just doesn't really mix. We were playing dominoes once. He was like, I could put down one domino and you wouldn't be able to play another domino. And I had a good hand, and I was like, what? If you lay down that domino, you are never, ever getting sex from me ever again. And so the game abruptly stopped, and he went to the bathroom and then to the bedroom, and I thought, why is he being so quiet? Like, fight with me. And the Lord was like, really? Really? Like, you're having an awesome time with your husband, and you guys are playing and you're laughing and you're being a jerk. I didn't think that it was gonna be so hard. Marriage is hard.
It takes a lot of work. It's hard work.
We've had so many instances where communication has been an issue for us. And not just in terms of how we talk, but even in terms of how we listen to each other.
I would say that communication has been a problem in our marriage because either just misunderstanding each other, and he overanalyzes a lot of things.
When we get into conflicts, I think she generally responds by pulling away. She'll leave, leave the house or something, go driving, or she'll go into another room to process things. And that's one thing that I didn't necessarily like, because I was the type, when it came to conflict, I want to deal with it now.
For me, I need that moment to just, okay, calm down, think about what was said, try to understand what happened, why are we upset, and then once I have all that process, I'm ready to come and talk. My husband, on the other hand, he's getting frustrated because I'm not ready to talk on his time. And so that also causes some type of frustration.
I would try to pressure her into, we're gonna talk about this right now. And when I did that, when I became aggressive in a sense, then she became aggressive. And so she would say stuff like, well, this is not always about you.
He's expecting me to calm down or to get over it just as fast as he's getting over it. And that's not the case.
She would need to pull away and gather her thoughts and pray and all of that good stuff. And I didn't necessarily like that because it felt like for me, it was just prolonging the issue.
Married at 20, and so we probably should have waited longer. I'm a musician, and so I focused and kind of revolved a lot of my life around that.
He's always been playing shows and very involved with this band, and I tried to be as supportive as possible and go to as many shows as possible.
We were definitely on two separate pages. She had a strong passion, and still does have a strong passion for missions, and she'd gone to Russia twice, and I really wasn't interested in that.
I felt very little support, and I went to Russia by myself because of it. Then when I felt like social work was an avenue for me to continue helping hurting children, he didn't want me to go back to school. And I felt, again, I didn't feel supported with something I'm passionate about. I was very resentful.
And I think a lot of stuff really built up. And specifically, one of those things was school. I had told her that I was going to go back to school, and I didn't, and she resented me for it.
I took it personal. I took it as that he wasn't willing to sacrifice for our family. I didn't feel like he valued me.
In a lot of ways, I would dismiss her input to the relationship and to the family, thinking that my way was best, and that I'm the guy and I should be able to make this decision without you helping me or anything.
If there was anything wrong that required effort, I didn't feel like he would put forth the effort that it would take.
If she asked me for something that I would have had to have gone out of my way to do, I probably would have just felt really inconvenienced and not wanted to do it.
I would mention it a couple times, and then if he didn't change, I would say, well, he's never going to change, so I'd just give up.
I would have listened, but it would have just been a frustration to me to have to deal with, I think.
I just pretty much said, well, he's not going to change, so I quit trying.
When Eric and I got married, I was not in debt, and I had been taught pretty much all my life that not to buy something unless I could afford it.
Coming into our marriage, I brought some student loans, had about $40,000+ in loans, and we did pretty well with our money at first. Once we got our first house, of course, we wanted to fill it with furniture, and so, the no interest, no payments for 18 months. We needed a washer and dryer. We needed, just things started adding up.
And it was always with the intent of paying it down. It was probably around $70,000 that we accrued probably in about 4 years.
And I didn't realize it at the time. We didn't have a budget. We just spent money. We went out to eat. Joel was in charge of the bills. So I didn't know really what kind of debt we were in. I got the mail one day and I opened one of the credit card bills and I looked at it shocked. $10,000, $15,000, what is this? I assumed that everything was being paid for.
I think it destroyed a little of the trust she had for me. She would question, well, where is our money? I need to buy groceries, where is our money?
I did have a little resentment towards Joel. The moment I opened that credit card statement, I thought, what else do we have? And then I just started adding it up and, almost panicking, thinking, how did we get here? I pretty much told Joel that I was taking over the finances. He was a little upset at that point.
And that was extremely challenging to me. I was the man of the house, I was the leader of our house, and I felt like I needed to provide security financially for her. Her not knowing where we were financially actually was more of a burden. She was the one that was buying groceries. She was the one that was taking the kids out and making more purchases than I was.
Kind of didn't give him an option. I kind of was like, you know, I think it's time for me to do this. First thing we had to do, we actually put our house on the market.
We moved into a small apartment even with 2 kids, which to us was a huge deal. We had to sell off a lot of the furniture we had accrued. We had to sell our cars. We made some radical decisions.
Because you had to look at what you have before you do it instead of looking at it after you've done it and see the damage.
Well, when Sharon and I got married, we started with nothing. And I've always been very goal-oriented. And so I was kicking it, man. I was out there doing deals, and I started buying and selling real estate, and I became a millionaire. By the time I was 26, I had about $4 million worth of real estate, starting from nothing. And so she's like, hey, this is great. Life is good.
And we were able to just go out and buy things spur of the moment without really thinking about where the money was going. We took nice vacations, and you know, if we wanted something, we just absolutely did it.
So there we sat with Jaguars and rental properties and all these other things going on. And then the bank got sold and they called our notes. And over the next 2.5 years, we lost everything we owned. We were sued. Oh, we were sued so many times, it was unbelievable. We were foreclosed on. And finally, with a brand new baby and a toddler and a young dad scared out of his mind, a marriage hanging on by a thread, we hit bottom and we were bankrupt.
During the bankruptcy, I was probably just an absolute basket case, even though I know I wasn't showing it on the outside. But, you know, just knowing deep down in my heart what was actually happening and not being able to control it was just a nightmare. I had so much anger built up. I had so much bitterness. It was the worst time of my life.
We were so scared. We were so hopeless. We were so broken. We didn't know what to do. As I started rebuilding, I started seeing, well, this is what I did wrong, and it doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't mean I don't have integrity. I just goofed. It was just stupid. And so with my lack of self-esteem and her fear, this is a combustible mixture.
After the bankruptcy, we went through marriage counseling. And during that time, it was an embarrassment for me. Once we learned to communicate, David took me by the hand and we sat at the kitchen table. And he said that things needed to change, and we were just honest with one another. And we decided right then and there that that's when the budget was going to have to come into our life.
I'm convinced the reason we were able to recover in our marriage and in the finances, because they were so intertwined at the same time, was that I discovered biblical finance. For the first time in our lives, we sat down and we did a budget. And that created unbelievably good communication where the two of us both had input. We do a written game plan every month to this day. And so there's freedom and there's independence, but we're on a game plan where there's lots and lots of communication. Jesus said, your treasure's where your heart is. And when you can agree on your spending together, well, now you've agreed on your goals. You've agreed on your passions. You've agreed on your priorities. You've agreed on the power flow in your household. You've even agreed on your fears. And so when we started budgeting together and learning to handle money together, then she could trust that I wasn't over here doing some wild deal again that was going to crash us. I don't do deals today inside my business of size. I don't sign a big contract with Fox News, but what Sharon's not in the room, and she's a full-time mom, and she's going to meet the players and look at the deal. Because I really did learn what Proverbs 31 says. Who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her husband safely trusts her, and here's the financial part, he will have no lack of gain. And so we've learned to stay on God's ways of handling money. We don't borrow money, we save money for emergencies. So the emergency fund in the house of the wise are stores of choice food and oil. The budget, Jesus said, don't build a tower without first counting the cost. Stay out of debt, I don't have any payments. The borrower's slave to the lender. We started implementing those things, and she began to trust that I was gonna follow God's word. And over time, 20 years it's been, over time, that trust has built. Walk daily with the Prince of Peace, Christ Jesus.